Hello guys, welcome back to my video podcast Career Change Heal to Lead. My name is Stephanie Grönke and I'm a career coach and expert for building a successful career from the inside out. And in case if you're wondering if there's any kind of weird sounds in the background today, I have a little assistant over here who's sleeping on a Sunday afternoon, so I hope he's not going to disturb us too much. Anyways, today's episode is going to be about my 10-day Vipassana experience and all the learnings I had there and how I finally survived it, because I'm incredibly proud of myself to do this. And so many of you have been asking me to share more about my experience. And really, if anything, it showed me how important it is to keep doing that personal development work on ourselves, because if you don't feel happy on the inside, you can have all the happiness on the outside. It's just not going to help you. It's not going to get you to that kind of mental state that you want to get to. So also, before we dive in, if you are also wondering, how can I work on my inner happiness more? How can I align that with my outer life, especially my career life, and how all of my areas of life align? On the 11th of May, for the first time ever, my Heal to Lead group coaching program is going to launch. I've poured my heart and soul into this, everything that has helped me over the last 5 years to switch countries, change careers, build my own business, be happier on the inside, get rid of anxiety, like just in general, like be happier and healthier physically and mentally. I've put it all in there for you, money mindset. So if you're interested, reach out to me. I'm still doing conversations right now with people to see who's a good match. And yeah, I think this is definitely a really, really good thing if you don't want to go away for 10-day Vipassana and try and work on your inner happiness. So for 5 weeks, I'll be by your side and we'll be working through everything that you want to work through in life. But anyways, now I'm excited to share all my learnings with you on this episode on my 10-day Vipassana silent retreat, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. So many people before I went, and even now I haven't spoken to a lot of people. I wanted to record this episode for you guys first, is how was it? And I didn't want to talk about it loads before I had my thoughts down, and I could probably publish my notes as a blog article as well. But yes, so how was it? It was everything from complete torture to like complete bliss and the best experiences I've ever made in my life. And the thing is that what Vipassana teaches you, it's basically an old Buddhist tradition according to the way it's passed down. It's even the technique that Buddha itself taught to people that's supposed to guide you to ultimate inner peace and happiness. And the technique basically is saying that you need to work on your physical and your mental state. So because you go through these cycles, when I say like it was torture and bliss at the same time, we're basically never static as human beings. Like even our cells are vibrating. So it's normal that you're happy or you feel bliss at some point, and then you feel like really bad because there's other things coming up. And the path to ultimate enlightenment and inner peace is that all the things from the past that are in you that cause you these like tortures and pains and that keep coming up are patterns that can be dissolved ultimately through the technique so that you reach inner peace. But as we have said multiple times on the course as well, it's a long, long path. And the problem that we have and why we have so much pain and sometimes not inner contentment is that when these cycles happen, we attach to them. So we either have aversion or we have a craving. So if there's something really nice happening for us, like bliss, we attach and we have this craving of like hoping that it's going to keep going for ourselves. And then if there's something that's unpleasant that we don't want, that's happening outside of our life, or just sensations that come up for us, we create an aversion. And that's basically what they call in the Vipassana philosophy, the misery. That's how we keep recreating misery for ourselves, because we're so torn and we're so attached to certain things happening or not happening in our lives that we then create a lot of emotions on top of it. And that is creating the misery for us. So the technique that we learned in this 10-day Vipassana course is to help us stop creating this craving and aversion, to basically end that eternal cycle of misery. So it's not about stopping things happening on the outside or never ever things happening again that you don't like, but it's about how you react, your entire mental and physical structure, how they say, reacts to these things. That's basically what you're reprogramming. And the reason why it's 10-day silence, you're not even allowed to like look at people or communicate with people in another way, is that they basically eliminate any new input, any new things from the outside that might trigger any type of, new sankharas, how they call this, new reactions to unwanted things happening. And because this way you create enough silence so that the old stuff is able to boil up to the surface, because only when it's at the surface, at the conscious level, you can let it go. So this is how, so much for the theory. But basically, when these old things come up, when like you work on your old patterns and these old things keep coming up, it's not comfortable. And that's why I said it was also a really, really tough experience when I was there. And I think when I came, I was set on staying for 10 days. Like, I'm a very determined person. Most people that know me would say, like, she's very disciplined. She works really hard. I never would have thought that at some point I would seriously question if I should stay on. But on day 4, I had reached that point, and I was sitting in front of my teacher, and I was like, I'm struggling. I'm not quite sure I can keep doing this. So much for the theory. What were my learnings? What were my experiences? I've brought 4 different learnings for you, which I hope are going to be helpful and also relatable for you, because I feel like they were universal learnings for myself, but I've also seen them working with clients multiple times. So I just felt it was a very nice way to basically summarize them again. Learning number 1 for me was I work too hard. I don't take enough breaks. I don't really take care of myself enough, and I need to communicate clearly what I need and where my boundaries are to make sure that I'm doing well, because nobody else knows how to basically take care of myself other than myself. So even if it seems like an inconvenience, hey there, I think somebody is really enjoying their Sunday. So basically, even if it's an inconvenience, it seems like an inconvenience to people, you need to be clear on what you need. And the 4th day, when I was sitting at the teacher and I was struggling, I was expecting her to tell me, like, you need to work harder, you haven't done your work, this is why you're struggling, it's all mental. This is what I had been telling myself. And she looked at me, she said, like, you know what? One of the problems I think we have in this part of the world is that we work too hard. So you need to take more breaks. I've seen you in the last 3 days. You're there at almost every sitting. You're constantly like working. You don't take a lot of breaks. You don't get up in between. You need to take more breaks. And honestly, in the in-between sessions where there's no mandatory attendance in the meditation hall, maybe just take a nap. And then she was looking at me and she was like, do you maybe need a back rest? And I was like, oh yeah, I can have a back rest, because when you like sit in meditation for like 10 hours a day, I don't know if you can imagine how hard that is. And I think at that point I hadn't even realized that one of the reasons I was struggling, I was just in physical pain, because we had been like having so many talks and instructions about like it's all mental, you need to like have those bad things coming up, that I realized maybe it's actually a structural physical problem that needs to be addressed. So she gave me this back rest, and she's like, sit down with this at your meditation seat. And honestly, my back pains went away within like an hour or 2, and I could sit again and I could meditate. And for the breaks that we were having, I took naps for the rest like of the entire course. And I think for me, that was the challenge. That was the thing where I really got to know myself again. This is not a lesson I've learned for the first time, but we just learned through repetition, is that I needed to take it more slowly. The challenge for me was to do less. Like, my challenge usually isn't that I'm not doing enough. My challenge is that I need to do less and trust that I still have the results. That sometimes doing more does not equal achieving more. And I keep saying that to everybody I work with. So if you've worked with me, you know this. It's so important that we remember is that doing a lot doesn't always equal achieving a lot. But sometimes, some of us, when we don't want to deal with uncomfortable things coming up, we try to work a lot because that's our way of avoidance as well. And I know that many of you, because I speak to you guys a lot on lots of different platforms, is you always have this question of, do I challenge myself enough? And usually your answer is, no, I don't challenge myself enough. And you're like, oh, I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to do more. And like, please take this learning to heart. Most of the people that I work with, the answer is, yes, you do challenge you enough. yourself enough, you probably challenge yourself too much. So I would have not been able to reach my goal of staying on for 10 days at this course if I had challenged myself more. I was able to reach the result I wanted, which was to stay on for 10 days and do the work by doing less, by challenging myself less, and by being kinder to myself. So, and that really made me think, and I don't know if you maybe ask yourself that question as well. In the past, if you have failed, what was the reason for failing? Because I realized during this course, I mean, obviously you have a lot of time to think, is that in the past, I have usually failed if I tried too hard. Not if I didn't try enough. I usually failed if I tried too hard, if I pushed myself over the edge. And that was with things like 2015 when I had my burnout and I tried to do too much on this consulting project and didn't like ask for help early enough. It was when I tried to do my GMAT and like get into Cambridge and Harvard, and it wasn't because I studied enough that I failed my first test. It was because I was too nervous and too tense when I went into the examination center that I couldn't concentrate. My brain wasn't relaxed enough to basically access all the knowledge from the studying I'd been doing. And I don't know, maybe ask yourself, when you failed in the past, was it because you didn't challenge yourself enough, or what was the real reason? Because honestly, I've never ever asked myself that question before. So I hope that this is maybe a little bit of an inspiration for you to think about. The second learning I had during the Vipassana course was that you need to do the work of changing yourself. And I'm not talking about like the learning and taking the input, but the experience of changing and the experience of getting towards where you want to get in your life. You need to do the work yourself. And I'm not saying that you need to like do super hard work and overexhaust yourself. No, usually that's not the problem with most of my target group, at least. But no teacher, coach, mentor, boss, parent can basically do the things that you need to do for you. You need to do them yourself. So you have to look at your own pains, you have to look at your own suppressed emotion, and you have to look at your own beliefs and change them in order to live the kind of fulfilled life that you're hoping to get. So I think, and this was an important realization for me is that one of the reasons that I wanted to become a coach is that I just love to help people and to, in a way, one of my meditation teacher said that to me last year. He was like, you're a fixer, aren't you? You like to fix things in people. And like, honestly, this sounds a bit harsh, but I think he was right. Like, even as a kid, I was the kind of like person, whenever there was tension, between like family members, I was trying to like mediate this and trying to make it go away, obviously also to like make myself feel better. But I think I'm like this ingrained person that now when I see people like maybe struggling with things or not living the life that they want, I'm like, oh, I need to help them, I can do this. And I have to realize, and I think I realized through this course again, that I had to do the work myself. Like I had to do the work to like, be not kinder to myself and be like, you're allowed to take breaks. Like I couldn't have the teacher like every 5 minutes sitting next to me being like, you're going to be fine, like take a break. And at the same time, I realized that for people that I'm working with, everybody needs to face their own fears. You just need to do the work by yourself, and you need to like be able to face those questions of like, what if change isn't possible for me? Like, what if it's not going to work for me? What if nothing really changes? And I think in a way it's a good way that nobody can do the work for you, because I realized that in the role of like a teacher, like on this Vipassana course, we had teachers and assistant teachers, but also in the role of a parent, in the role of me as a coach, in the role as a boss, you can't do the work for people. You can guide them. You can give them a framework. You can instruct people. You can mirror things back to them. You can build a supportive environment. You can build a safe environment. You can try and ensure psychological safety for people while they develop. But they need to make their own experiences. And this is important. Like, it needs to be an actual experience. Like nothing is achieved by understanding theory. Like you can do all the studying you want. But in terms of actual change for your life, you need to actually do the change. So I just want this to also be a reminder to you, because I know a lot of you guys follow me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and I appreciate so much that like you love the short stories that I'm sharing and that you can relate to this. But at the same time, the change is not going to come from consuming a podcast. The change is not going to come from watching Instagram stories or Facebook stories. And these days, we tend to distract ourselves with these things. And I think this is something I realized on the course as well, again, that because there was no distractions, right? Every time you were like facing a problem, even in your mind, you couldn't be like, oh, let me listen to this podcast that gives me helpful tips on this and then I'm going to feel better about the problem, right? No, you had to actually sit through the problem yourself. You had to like either figure out how to like deal with the pain or deal with the uncomfortable thoughts or deal with boredom, because honestly, like this can be really boring if you're not allowed to talk and don't get a lot of new input for 10 days. You need to face that stuff yourself and ask yourself what's behind it. So the question I asked myself, like, well, what happened when I failed in the past? What was the actual like reason for me failing? I never asked myself that question before, because every time before I got to that question, I distracted myself with like some helpful input. So remember this, like it's great if you're consuming this type of stuff, but come work with me in a coaching program. Come work with me one-to-one. Like actually like take the people or whatever framework you need to make the real changes to your life. And even if you're afraid it's not going to work, and even if you're afraid you won't be able to cope, you don't need to do it alone, but do something and don't just like be stuck consuming and dreaming about things. So this is a very important lesson I took away again for myself as well. Because I'm also this kind of person, I want to practice what I preach. So whatever people come to me with and I advise them on, I have the standard for myself that I'm like, I need to live these kind of principles in my own life. So take this away for yourself, that make sure you experience these things. Like if you want to change something in your life, try it. Maybe not everything is going to work out, but you will have made the experience, and things that haven't worked for other people might work great for you, and things that have worked great for other people might not work for you. So anybody that you meet on your path is only ever going to be a guide, or can be a teacher, can be a mentor, but they cannot live your life for you. And also trust yourself that you know what's good for you, and that you find the right people that come into your life at the right time to help you. So if you have an impulse to work with someone, do it. Do it. And I can say that from my own experience. Every time I've chosen to work with mentors, it was the right decision if it came out of an impulse, not out of it somebody's pushing me into something or I'm pushing myself into something, but usually the impulses were there and I knew that this was the right thing for me to do, and the rest was just voices like holding me back. Okay. Learning number 3 was, so they have this principle in Vipassana that they call anicca. And oh my God, I keep hearing this word over and over again in my head because we've heard it so many times during the course. So every time we went into meditation, the teacher's instructions would say, start your work again, start practicing, start using the practice, start feeling the sensations in your body, because that was what the technique was about. So it was not about thinking about things theoretically, it was about actually understanding the sensations, or noticing the sensations, observing the sensations that came up in your body. And he always said, do that with the understanding of anicca. And anicca means that everything is impermanent, like nothing stays forever. A lot of the misery and like lasting pain we create for ourselves is that once something comes up, even as a sensation, we cling to it because we're like, it's never going to go away. It's never going to go away. What do I do if it's not going to go away? What do I do if it's not going to go away? And that's basically what scares you. And that is basically attachment that you create in this like language of the Vipassana course. And that makes it stay. If you're just simply observing it and you're like, oh, that's interesting sensation. Oh, there's pain in my shoulder. Oh, I wonder how long that one is going to stay. Interesting. I mean, it sounds weird. That's why you have to experience this for yourself. I can talk to you about this right now, but you have to experience this for yourself. Is that it goes away like much quicker than I thought. And by this technique and just sitting with yourself for so many days, I realized like so many things. Like, for example, on day 4 or 5, I had like really intense like shoulder pains. And I've had this before. I've had like month-long physio treatments for this stuff before. And I realized it's actually going to go, it went away within like a day, because I just kept like doing that technique and not attaching too much of the pain and not panicking about there's no physio here, how's this ever going to work. And I think this is what we do with a lot of these things, right? Like, what if I don't get this promotion? What if I don't get the pay rise? What if I can't pay my bills? What if like I don't get to travel as much as I want to? What if I don't get the life that I want? What if I don't like my boss? Like, what if he says the same statement again that I don't like? It's so many things that we cling to, and this way we make it worse. So I hope that makes sense for you guys. But this principle of anicca was so helpful for me to practice, because I've heard this before. Oh, you have to let go. Don't attach to things. Like, it's not like I've heard this for the first time, but physically experiencing in my body that things that I used to cling to that then got worse and worse and worse, and that I was only able to heal with the help of, like, lots of treatments, now went away in a matter of days. And I've heard this from other participants later as well. Like, we had people with like really intense like stomach pains before, knee pains, like so many things went away because we kept just practicing to not attach to this. Or maybe this, if you're angry at someone, like something happens and you're angry, and then like you boil up all this heat and like you have like way more explanations like why person is really bad, and then like you cling on to the anger for like weeks, days, hours, I don't know. I think this is when I realized that how much we're harming ourselves, because I've heard this before, like you harm yourself, but I never really understood how much we're harming ourselves by our thoughts, by our way of thinking about things. And I think one thing that I find a lot in people I work with, but also in myself, is this: a lot of us high performers have very, very, very intense inner critical voice. So this inner critical voice is like things, and I've realized that when I was there, like 24/7, you can't escape that voice, like you keep listening to it. I think this is the first time I really, really experienced how much I was beating myself up, and how much this inner critical voice is something that I should not be listening to that much. Like, it was saying things, it was like crazy, but things like, what, you have back pains now? Look at yourself on day 3, like how are you ever going to make it through like 10 days? You better suck this up right now. If you can't even do that, how are you ever going to build a successful business or like have a family and manage your life if you can't even sit through like 10 days of silence? Wow, I mean, look at your skin today, it looks horrendous. Like, how will you ever, be in a relationship and make men fall in love with you if you look this way? And what are you even doing here? Like, you're wasting all this time. You could be doing other things. You're being unproductive. You're just taking naps and being bored. Like, honestly, we all know these voices. I mean, be honest, like, hands up, who knows this voice? But when you're with this voice 24/7, you realize how much you're doing this to yourself, how much you're really doing this to yourself. And you can't escape this voice by distracting yourself, by talking to other people who are like, no, 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 that's not true about yourself. And they give you lots of nice words, and you kind of externalize this like good, nice, loving voice. You don't do that to yourself, but like you have other people like reconfirm things. That's why so many of us struggle when our bosses don't, appreciate enough the work that we've done, or our family members don't appreciate us enough for the things that we are doing, because we are so critical on ourselves. We have such a loud inner critical voice that we need these external loving voices to basically compensate for that. But when you're on a 10-day Vipassana course, there's nobody doing that for you. I mean, the teacher, and I'm grateful for that, did it for me on day 4. We said, you work too much. You need to take a break. But ultimately, I realized that I can't keep externalizing and outsourcing that task of like being nice to myself. So for me, this was such a tremendous switch that I knew this voice from before, and I'd calmed it before, and I'd changed it, but I think I never on this experiential level experienced how much I was hurting myself with the things I was saying to myself. And that it was actually in my power and my decision to change that and really change that. And that there, I think maybe in a good and a bad way, there was also at the time when you do the Vipassana, there's no external circumstances that you can blame for that, because sometimes you know this inner critical voice, but you're like, yeah, I had a tough day, or like this person said this to me, that's why this came flared up again, or whatever, this client didn't want to work with me, and that's why this came up again. We have like so much of this inner critical voice going on, but we tend to then blame the outside for why it even came up in the first place. On a 10-day Vipassana course, you can't do that because there is no external voice. It's like nobody can be blamed. So that's when you really have to realize that it's yourself and it's in your own power. And for me, it was such a switch. Like one of the days when I was lying down, I was like, I need to stop this. I'm going to change the conversation with myself right now. I'm really going to change the conversation with myself. And I started saying things like to myself, which I usually don't do, like, I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you for all the things that you're doing. Look at all the things you've done in the past. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for like being courageous and going on this 10-day course. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I actually started talking to myself that way. And it was a switch for me. It really was. And I've heard this before where people are like, oh, you have to like use these sentences, but it always felt like really weird affirmations to me. It never felt natural. It always felt forced that I would have to talk to myself in this way. So when I talk to you guys on here now, I don't know if that makes sense. I hope that I can convey some of what I was feeling, but I know now that you need to make that experience yourself. And if it's with working with me on the Heal to Lead program or in some other way, please do the work. Please like understand this inner critical voice and switch it into a loving voice to yourself, because all of us are great human beings and we deserve to like be talked to in a nice way, not just by people on the outside, but actually by ourselves. And this is, I think, one of the most important things that I'm taking away from this Vipassana experience, that I can give some of this stuff to myself. And I'm not saying that this inner critical voice is like never ever going to come up again. I think that's a standard that we shouldn't hold ourselves to, because anicca, nothing is permanent. Like, yes, we will go through cycles, and maybe there's things happening in life that are like such a shock to your system that bring up so much old stuff that you will fall back into that old pattern, or there's going to be patterns, like little things that come up again that make you fall back into this. But that's fine. Like, then don't take another critical voice on top of it and be like, this shouldn't be happening, this shouldn't be happening. But I think it's important, the more often we experience how much we're beating ourselves up, especially in this kind of space that I'm working with, high performers, insecure overachievers, people with imposter syndrome. It's so important that we do this work, because I think when we heal ourselves on that level, and that's why I called the program Heal to Lead, is that I think we can be different leaders, very different leaders, because we no longer lead out of a place of insecurity and out of a place of needing that reconfirmation from the outside, but we're leading out of a place of inner strength. And then it doesn't matter if you become a coach or a guru, or you are the CEO of like a big company, you lead out of a very different place. And I think that's the type of healing that we also need for our nature, for our planet, for a lot of the things that we're doing. Because I think I have more and more people now that come to me and say, well, I don't really feel purpose in what I'm doing. I feel like I'm just, doing this like 9-to-5 job, or this like 14-hour days in a really stressful job, but I sometimes don't even see the point of what I'm contributing to my business or to the world or to our clients. And I think if we start doing this type of healing, we will start founding different companies, or we will change the companies and the systems that we work in a way that it will just feel more purposeful to all of us, and it will actually make the kind of contributions that we want to make in the world. So I think for me, it was important to go through this and also realize, and I don't know if you've done that in the past. So if you don't, like, don't just listen to my podcast right now. Maybe sit yourself down, take a notebook, and write down for yourself what are the things that you have achieved in the last 12 months. And I don't only mean in terms of like extra money you've earned or like, tangible things, but like what are things on the inside that have changed for you, that you have achieved, that are improvements in your life. Because I sat down with myself and I realized so many things have changed for me in the last year. Like last year this time I was torn between like 3 different locations. I wasn't sure if I should live in Germany, Madeira, or the UK. Now I've decided on Germany, and the feedback I'm getting, like, I feel so more grounded, and people are like, we can hear this in your voice, you're so more grounded. And I'm in one place now. Yes, I still love to travel, but I don't have like residencies in 3 different places, and I feel super torn about all of them. I used to wake up like this time a year ago. I used to wake up with anxiety almost every morning. It used to take me almost 2 hours to shake it off, and I don't talk about this a lot because I sometimes feel, well, this as a coach, and like you should have it all together. You should not have these problems, but like a year and a half ago, I was struggling with this on a regular basis, and I know many of people in my space also do. But now it's changed. Like I wake up and it's like easy for me. I mean, I hit the snooze button every once in a while, I'm gonna admit, but it's easier now. Like I get up, I feel energetic. If it comes up like every couple of weeks, I'm able to, immerse it into my body, and it's something that passes really quickly. Um, and this is like such a giant achievement for me. But honestly, like the first 3 days at this Vipassana course, I was beating myself up for all the things I hadn't achieved yet. And when I started changing that conversation with myself, that loving conversation, these things came to my mind all of a sudden. So you also open different channels in your mind and in your body, literally, to like have these things come up. I mean, I now work on my coaching business. Like I work on it full time. I get to record podcasts like these as my full-time job. I mean, like honestly, 3 years ago, I was like, I would love to be able to do a job like this. And now it's my job. I mean, look at this, right? And I used to, like I said earlier, I used to have shoulder pains on a regular basis, needed physio treatment. Now I was on like a 10-day Vipassana course. There was no physio there. I got a back rest, but I was able to dissolve that pain by myself in 2 days. I mean, I used to have like last year, this time, well, like 2 years ago, for 3 months, I had physio treatments on this, right? Like these are amazing, amazing achievements, and they don't necessarily have anything to do with career or money, but they add so much quality out to our lives. Like I'm my own boss right now. I get to like decide when and where to work. Like I just did this 10-day course of being completely online and offline, and I hope people are still going to listen to this. I mean, I don't know. And it's like I can just stay in the UK now for a week, like helping friends out with their dog, and I can do that. I mean, I would, like 2 years ago, that seemed impossible for me, honestly, to do these kind of things. And I think it's important, like I said, you experience this for yourself. Everything is impermanent. Like even today, like this morning, I was super energetic. Some of you probably watched my Instagram story and I was like, oh my God, everything is great. And then like by lunchtime, I was like, oh no, this is all over. How's this gonna be for me? And then I started typing up my notes for my podcast, and then I got excited again. It's normal to go through cycles, but I think what you can, and this is what I experienced, the more I do work like this, like Vipassana, I think also is going to help me a lot with this, is that you can influence the amplitudes of how much the waves are by, first of all, not attaching too much craving and aversion to it. So like, attaching too much to it. And also by continuously dissolving old past stuff. So like, this is why I'm also placing an emphasis on this in my Heal to Lead program, that I'm like, let's look at your old patterns at work, at childhood, to see what needs to come up, what kind of old pains need to be healed, because a lot of the times that's what's holding us back from really building life the way we want, also on the inside. It's really important that you experience, that you build this up, because that way you get to influence the amplitudes, and you get to influence if the ups and downs have an upward trend, or a downward trend, because you're going to have these cycles in life. But if it's a downward trend, then definitely come and get help. And if you start seeing an upward trend, don't be too impatient with it all the time, because it's like, this is really needed, but it's an upward trend, right? You're getting there. So be patient, be kind with yourself, use that loving voice. That was a long one, but I think it's just such an important message. Like, there's impermanence, but at the same time, you need to realize what are the strong patterns and change that. So if you're also really tough on yourself and you know that inner critical voice, change it. Make experiences that show you how much that voice is harming you, and then get out of it. And then the fourth learning was that you always find reasons to not change anything. And I know this sounds strange when I say I work with people that usually say I don't challenge myself, but even constantly challenging yourself in a certain way is a pattern. So for me, this pattern of like not challenging myself extremely over the edge was a way of changing. And if we are on the verge of changing harmful patterns, our brain is just built this way that these harmful patterns at least have kept us alive. So obviously there's no incentive for us to change, because there might be a danger that we're not going to survive with the new thing that we're trying to implement. So next time you want to change something, ask yourself, which of the excuses am I using? Because I think there's a difference between it's not the right time for me to change, which is fine. Sometimes you just don't need change. Or I have an impulse to go for something, to get support from someone, to like join a program, to do something with my life. But then these voices start. And usually there's 3 different reasons why your mind is going to tell you it's not a good idea to change. The first thing is you're going to doubt the technique, the teaching, the methodology, the program. So your mind is going to tell you it's not a good idea to do this because I don't think this is the right approach. I don't agree with this. There's part of the philosophy that is contradictory to what I've learned in the past. Like, you're going to find lots of ways of dissecting why this stuff isn't a good idea. That's the first thing. Second thing, you're going to doubt the teacher, the mentor, the coach, whoever you're going to be working with, whoever you're going to take support, the boss, the parent, whoever is going to basically try and hold space for you to make that change. You're going to doubt those people. Like, you're going to find excuses like they're not credible. They don't really understand my situation. They haven't been through what I've been through. Like, they're corrupted. They don't have the right qualification, whatever. You're going to find excuses. Don't listen to that. Third one, if all of these things haven't worked, or like there's lots of proof out there, like for example, I work with testimonials, like, okay, the teacher works, the program works, for example. But then the third one is that, well, then it's just not for me. I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I've tried so many different things that has never worked. So why would it work this time? It's not for me. I'm not good enough. I'm not important enough. I'm not capable enough. It's just not for me. And I want to empower you to spot, because this is self-sabotaging. This is how we keep ourselves in a very harmful, painful, sometimes even, comfort zone. And we don't do the changes that we want for our lives. Like, sometimes I have people texting me saying like, oh, you're so inspiring. You're such a confident person. I could never do what you're doing. And one of my mentors said to me once, whatever you see in me is already in you. So you have that skill. I'm just a mirror for you in that moment, that I'm mirroring something back to you that you in deep down know you want, and you haven't been courageous to go try. And I'm not saying it's going to work out the first time you try every time. No, that's how it works, right? When we start to learn to walk as kids, yes, we fall down like so many times until we figure out how to walk. And I think as adults, eventually we think that failure is actually a bad thing, and that we always have to succeed on the first time. And especially if you've been a straight A student in school and always been a great achiever academically, for you it's usually really hard to fail. And I think it's so important that we make failure a good thing. Again, that it's okay to practice, to repeat, to try different things until we figure it out. But it's still better than not trying at all, and to stay in this kind of like, meh, it's not too bad. It's like, I'm okay, it's really not that bad. But then, do you want to keep doing this for the next 30 years? Really? Like, ask yourself, if you're in a situation right now where you're like, I don't want to be in a situation in 30 years from now, do something about it. Please do. Yeah. Sorry, that got a bit emotional. So I think in summary, what I took away from myself is, and I hope I was able to relate some of these learnings to you, is that none of these learnings were necessarily completely new to me. And they weren't necessarily something that I'd never heard before. And also, again, one of the teachers I had last year said to me, he's like, you know what? One thing I realized is when one is on retreat, you just end up meeting yourself again. And I think for me, that was in a way like I just met myself again, but maybe on a deeper level, on the next level down. And this is, I think, such an important thing, that you don't have to necessarily always find completely new things about yourself. You know your things, but you sometimes need a container, you need a safe environment to explore and change some of this. And don't have the expectation everything needs to change at once. Take it one step at a time, and that's completely fine. So I think I did meet myself again. Also made incredible changes and progress. And I never used to say this before, but I'm really, really proud of myself for what I've done, for the things I've done over the last 10 days, for the things I've achieved, for being courageous, but also taking help from others on the way. So thank you for my teacher for telling me to take breaks. This was, in a way, a breakthrough for me. We need to do the work ourselves, but we don't need to go all the way alone. We can take help from mentors, from people that help guide us on this way. And I think this is just what I'm so incredibly grateful for, to have so many people around to do that. And one last thing is, on day 10, we were able to talk to each other again and to slowly prepare us for the real world. And I didn't know that because they didn't really tell us when we went into the program. And just before, I actually thought, I'm like, nah, you know what? I'm fine. Like, I haven't talked to people in 9 days. Not sure I really miss it. Not sure I really want to talk to people. And you have no idea how wrong I was. Like 5 minutes into talking to people, I was just so excited. I was like bubbling, like we were all in such a great mood. We were on such a high. Like, I mean, I don't think alcohol can do that to you. Like, we're like all so high on just talking to other people. And it's nice. It turns out that we're all in this together. And it's so nice that although everybody has their very individual things going on and everybody's on an individual journey, we're at the same time, we're all so connected. And I think I realized this again over those 10 days. There were so many people that I thought like they've dealt with this like so much better than me. There was one girl, she was in my room and I was like, oh, she's so disciplined. Like every time, the gong rings, like she gets up immediately, she goes to the hall. And later on I talked to her and she's like, you know what, Steffi, I just didn't have a watch on me, so every time the gong rang, I was just so afraid I would like miss something, and I didn't have a feeling for time, so I just immediately went. And also I was so restless because there was so many changes I have in my life going on right now, that I just couldn't like rest anymore. And always like I was so restless. So you never know what's behind the facade and what you interpret. Or there was like one girl that kept sitting in front of me in the meditation hall, and we all had assigned seats, and she was an old student. She had done this before, and I was like, she's sitting there without a backrest, no extra cushions. Wow, what a strong lady. And then she told me later on that she freaked out on day 8. She like packed her things. She was on the way home, and then like halfway through, she realized that it was just a really bad reaction she had to like old stuff coming up. And she came back and she was like, can you please rejoin the course? And honestly, like, we're all connected. So whatever you're going through, yes, it's unique to you, but you're not alone with it. It's kind of also universal at the same time. And it's so important that we connect with others, that we share our experiences, that we take help, that we realize how much we are connected to each other, because then we can achieve like very different things. And I think if we are all connecting, not to mourn about things and gossip and talk about our worries all day, but we're actually connecting with people and getting together to heal together, to work on ourselves, to get ourselves to the next level, to help each other work through our individual kind of struggles, I think it's such a powerful thing, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity I had in the last 10 days, but also every time I work with people, with clients, any coaching course I've ever done, any retreat I did over the last couple of years, my MBA mates, like people I've worked with, like it's such an important co-creation being with other people. And I just really hope that people can see this more. And the more we work through our own struggles, the less we project our aversions onto other people, and the more it actually gets an enriching experience to be with other people. So this is my experience of 10-day Vipassana. I'm still integrating all of these things. I'm arriving back into the world, but I kind of wanted to share this with you before I got too many like new influences and too much work coming at me tomorrow. I hope this was helpful. I hope you were able to take away things for yourself. And yeah, let me know. Like, reach out to me if you have questions about this, if you want to discuss certain things, if you're interested about the Heal to Lead program. 11th of May, we're starting. Definitely let me know. I would love to have lots of beautiful people and connect. And yeah, oh yeah, if you don't follow me on Instagram yet, it's at Stephanie Grunke. I'm gonna be doing a meditation challenge there next week, so if you're interested, there will be recordings as well. If you can't make the times, I haven't decided, I'm still planning, but there will be a meditation challenge. So if you want to get a little bit of a feel of like what I experienced over the last 10 days, definitely come join. I'll be offering different meditation techniques I've learned over the years, and you can maybe figure out which one could work for you. Have a wonderful day. Give me a thumbs up on the video. Please give me a 5-star rating on the podcast if you really enjoyed this, because this way we can share with more people can get to know this, and I would love your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. I know this one was a long one, but yeah, it was just difficult to like get this all into one video. Thank you so much. Thank you for my little assistant down here as well. He's still sleeping. And have a beautiful day whenever you're tuning into this. Bye bye.